My grandmother, the way she gave me the ability to make clay figures is because she taught her daughters how to make clay figures. And that's the thing about Pueblo art and Pueblo women. We're very much always teaching, always trying to pass on our knowledge to the next person. These pieces are so dated and they're so a part of time. You know, I can't, that's why I purchased pieces of my aunt's in the 70s or early 80s. I really like the early 80s. Even my Auntie Alma's pieces have changed so much over the years. This piece would be stark white right now, a little fuller, fatter. For me, when I look at this piece and I know she did it such a long time ago, it just makes me really understand how important it is to appreciate like every moment, you know, because these moments will never come back. My aunts I've passed on, and I have another aunt that passed on that I still haven't found her piece. And I'm always looking for these. I have like different galleries, you know, looking out for their older pieces because I want them so badly because they were such a part of my childhood. Yeah. Okay, so my mother isn't represented here, which is a bummer because she's a huge part of my work, of course. As a child, of course, she would just hand me a glob of clay and I'd sit there and work with her. At the time, you don't think of it as work because you're a child and you're just making art or you're just having fun with your mom. But in fact, it laid these incredible foundations of knowledge that are embedded in you. You know, they're not a textbook. They're not something you go someplace to learn. It's such a part of your lifestyle and such a part of your everyday existence that this traditional knowledge is just embedded in you. This piece here is going to be a lady, of course. She's I really have no idea what exactly she's going to be doing. And a lot of times that's how I approach what I'm working on, primarily because if I really have a set piece, it's super stressful because the clay kind of wants to do what it wants to do sometimes. And if you don't give it that freedom, then you're stressed out. So all my pieces, I start from the bottom, and all the pieces kind of start with a pot, with a pinch pot form, and then I build from that pinch pot. I think it's just the way I was taught to make storytellers as a young person, and that muscle memory, I think just stayed with me. So every time I start anything, like I'll demonstrate real quick, anything at all, I kind of just start with a pinch pot. So that's the basic thing you learn as a young potter in the Pueblo. You learn how to make a pinch pot. A lot of times native art is super serious. A lot of times native art is immersed in a history of turmoil and being mistreated and victimized, and it just goes on and on and on. And the reality is we are still super resilient and we're super happy people. I mean, yeah, of course there are quite a few issues that have to be addressed and we can't lose sight of that. But I mean, I myself am not super serious. So, and I am native, and so I can't deny that about me. I can't deny that I have this personality that doesn't coincide with the average stoic native perception of that people have of Native people. So when my pieces are embraced, it makes me really excited for a different perspective on Native people in general. I mean, because most people that know Native people, I mean, of course, it's just like any other personality. It runs the gamut. But we're not completely torn down and you know, beat up. And I mean, yeah, we have been historically, and we have a lot of fights, you know, in front of us and behind us and right now. But you know, when you think about it, we are people, and our personalities are all so different, and we have to kind of acknowledge all of that. So when I'm making the work, like for instance the work that Yale has in their exhibit, that piece is very light, and it brings this really great feeling of just this whimsical kind of joy to the room.
What kind of piece is this you're working on?
This one will probably be a seed pot. It's a little bit bigger than a normal seed pot, but it'll, long time ago there's a story to tell you that the women would make a pot that would fit in their little pouch, and the men would fill it with the seeds, and the opening is small enough where the mice wouldn't get into it. So when the men would go to the field, they would put that pot in their pouch, and then when they get to the field to plant, they just shake the seed out. But they used them to store the seeds also. But you just gotta keep working the clay and turning it and pressing it inward.
You said the clay kind of has a sense of where it wants to go.
Yes, sometimes it takes on a mind of its own, and I'll want it to be a seed pot, but it doesn't. Sometimes it'll grow and it'll be bigger than what you wanted it to be. Whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling angry and you're feeling, and especially angry, if you try and make Mother Clay into something that you want, she feels that anger and your pot won't come out. It'll crack because she's hurting just as much as you are. And it makes a difference. A lot of the pieces right now, I'm more at peace in where my life is at right now, and my pieces are coming out really nice. Even if I say so myself, I'm pleased with the way that they're coming out. So I know just from my own life experience that she feels what I feel. You know, there's times when I'm working on something, and if I'm designing something, you know, I'll think of how my dad would tell me if I'm having problems with it. He'll remind me of how to do something a certain way, or if you're putting on a certain design, you'll remember what you've been taught, the meaning of the design. And especially when I'm polishing, it's like Grandma would tell you, is that good enough? Are you happy with it? You know, be proud of what your finished piece is. And I'll always remember she asked to see one of my pots, and she picked it up and she just said, "You do good work," and handed it back to me. That in itself said everything I needed to know. That surpassed any ribbons, awards, anything else that I ever have gotten. I've seen just more and more ceramic pottery it's not traditional anymore. It doesn't have that sense of belonging, a sense of home, a sense of where we came from. People are looking more at the monetary part of things. And instead of teaching that tradition and showing your kids or your grandkids how to go back to the earth and find Mother Clay and take care of her and bring her home and nurture her into making a pot, they're going out and buying clay. And yeah, they'll make money on it, but it's just losing a certain sense of identity, our own identity. Okay, so this is the clay that we got from the vein, and it comes out literally like chocolate. It'll come out in layers. But we'll take this home, we'll dry it first, and then we'll soak it and screen it and process it and mix it. Next step would be to mix it with the temper to make our clay. But the whole process itself, from start to finish, just to get the clay ready, probably would take a good 6 weeks to a month. That you use for polishing? For burnishing? I don't have anything else to do. But you'll literally put it on the pot and you're just rubbing it with the stone. But I have some of these have been handed down from my grandma. She gave them to my dad. And then I have a couple of pieces from my mother-in-law.
So Yakima today is considered one of the oldest continuously inhabited settlements in North America. And Yakima is situated in this valley. The mesa top where the old village is situated rises above the valley floor about 360 feet. And we maintain a traditional lifestyle on the mesa top. There's no electricity, indoor plumbing, or running water. While a majority of the community does not reside on the old village full time, we do have traditional leaders and other members of our community whose preference it is to maintain their full-time residence on the mesa top. The majority of the community returns throughout the year to observe cultural ceremonies and other social events throughout the year. The Yakima language, there is a word or a reference to the first people who were emerged onto this world, and that word is Kutiamunish. And Kutiamunish is a very much alive and well today in Yakima and in most pueblos. And I reference this term because anytime we are creating a new pot, when we are composing a new song, when we are dancing, and when we are in ceremony at this time, we have gone back to that time of emergence. We have and continue to reconnect to that history and that past. And that is the most significant and quite profound way of sustaining our being here on this earth. It's an inherent responsibility that we have as well. And so I would imagine that the children of our Pueblo people today, and those not yet born, will continue to be gifted with that very special gift of the Creator that is embedded in our minds and in our blood, so that we might see the creation of Acoma pottery or Pueblo pottery even another 1,000 years from now. The pottery making tradition at Acoma's has existed since time immemorial, and the clay mother has traveled, we believe, with us on this migration, and she settled at a place west of the old village. And so anytime a potter is preparing to make pottery, there's a process for actually gathering the clay. So having pottery in the art gallery is significant for, I think, maybe a couple of big reasons. One would be that you have the opportunity for the pottery to breathe. They come out of collections, they come out of storage spaces. This particular gift to the gallery now has the opportunity to be seen by many. The pottery have a power of their own to influence the way of thinking by the visitor or the viewer. It helps to expose a foreign audience to a way of life that is rooted in an incredible history and culture, and that these cultures are still alive today. Many of the pottery that are represented in the exhibit are made by potters who are living Acoma potters, living Pueblo potters, who have taken the traditional pottery making forms and have created their own. It is now known as art. So that exposure and also this opportunity then to educate and influence additional interest by the viewer is always a welcome outcome.